Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here at Peak Prosperity on the live channel for the Garden of Evie. It's a new show that we're trying to do here at Peak Prosperity, and it's a chance for everybody to ask questions and to interact a little bit more. And I'm happy to give an inside view into what's going on here on our farm and to give you sort of a chance to ask more personal things and to get to know us, and also for us to get to know you. So please feel free to comment. I am more than happy to answer any and all questions about lots of different things. There's so many topics that I really want to discuss that it's actually difficult to decide what I'm going to do in what order. So let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything that really interests you, please feel free to drop it in the comments. Additionally, if you do press the like and the subscribe button to make sure you're notified about this, it helps the algorithm find other like-minded souls out there in the world. So please do that if you've enjoyed this program. So today I am coming to you again from our home studio, and I've brought with me another video from the big wide world, and I'm excited to share that with you. Now, this video I filmed the other day. It begins with Chris and I in the car, and we're actually going to pick up some meat. Now, a few weeks ago, we had an unfortunate situation, but one that every farmer is faced with at a certain point, where one of our big Belties, who weighs apparently about 1,500 pounds, ended up having an infection, and we had to decide whether we were going to try and treat her. And the way we do it here on our farm is, at least up until this point, we've had cows in the field, just helping manage our soil for us, which is we put the cows out there, we mob graze them in small little paddocks with the hope that they're going to stomp all over that grass, they're going to pee and they're going to poop there, and it's going to bring up the abundance that's in our field. And so our cows aren't fed grain for the most part at all. They're grass-fed, all year round. And the issue that we've found is that when it comes to trying to get really close to them, as in treat them for one thing or another, it's a little challenging. So when Mama Belty got an infection, we were realizing that we were going to have to give her antibiotics for 10 days intramuscularly, which with a giant animal like that gets to be hard. So we ended up deciding that the best thing to do was to harvest her and let her gift and continue to give to us in a different way. And we didn't want her to suffer either. And so we found somebody to help us, because we weren't planning on taking her at all. She was going to be helping us manage soil for a really long time. And so we found this wonderful mobile butcher, essentially, who comes to you and processes at least the initial part of harvesting an animal. They take it right in front of you. You're also welcome to do it yourself. And that animal is just there eating grass and loving life right up until the last moment. So that's what the setting is of the beginning of this movie. And this week, I want to try and pause it just a little bit if there are some sections that need a little bit more explanation, or if there are questions and there's something important that I need to answer. If I miss it, I will go back and try and grab it. But I'm hoping to be able to share just a little window into what our life is like here. And then after that, I'm excited to have some comments and to answer some questions. So do put those things in the chat. And this video is about 20 minutes or so. So I hope you enjoy this. Let me just make sure I turn this sound off. Sorry. Okay. All right. So here we go. It's called Stratton Meats, the place where we went. It's up in Vermont. So we're driving back home from picking up that we had to call, and called her mama. I don't think that was her actual name, but Chris and I are in the car. It's filled to the gills with meat. It's like 1,000 pounds of hanging weight that we ended up with, but I'm just feeling kind of emotional because I miss her, and now she's here with us.
Should I restart it?
Appreciate her and all that she's gifted us in terms of helping our field to be more fertile, and just her personality and the love and the gentleness that she had. But now she's going to nourish our bodies as well, so it just feels special. What do you think?
I am spiritually connected to this food.
Which is
you can see the smile. I mean, it feels right and good, you know. She lived a good life, and she was loved, and this is more real than any other way you can possibly eat. So that it has an impact. That's correct.
All right.
That's right. Yeah.
Should I?
So, anyway, just wanted to share.
And yeah, the car's riding heavy.
We're gonna go home, and we will show you the contents when we get back. This is Chris Martinson getting stressed out about how much meat we have to deal with now. He's freaking out because here's what we got. This is actually a lot of fat.
There's the suet.
For suet. What is this? Sirloin tip steak.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Look at this face. Ribeye steaks.
Look at the marbling in there.
Oh, they're beautiful. Look how much fat. I can't believe how much fat.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
trimmed.
Okay,
You got a
so
whole box of fat.
we've got 2 boxes full of hamburger. Plus, this is a brisket. We've got all sorts of different steaks. This isn't how I want it though, because I won't be able to get at any of the hamburger with this stuff on. But we're almost at a point where we're gonna freak out to get this in the freezer quick, and we can worry about organizing it later, because there's just so much. It's a good problem to have. I'm just showing you a little bit now of my perennial garden and all of the things that are blooming right now, which I find to be just breathtakingly beautiful. I'm growing comfrey, which I don't suggest planting in a garden you actually want to have access to again. It just takes over and you can't get it out. It's great as a composter and lots of other things, but those are our chickens. We've got 25 laying hens at this point. We haven't done meat birds in a couple of years because you have to order them in bulk, and we had several, like, I don't know, 30 or something crazy. And it was a lot to process for us, and also it's a lot to put away unless you have the freezer space, which I think you guys just saw that we don't. So those are just my egg layers. That's our garden. That's Charlie and Buddha, our cat dogs. I'm right here. Come on, babies. So now I'm just letting nature's sounds be the background. This is a part of our field. We have much more clover than we had before, which I think is a good sign. We've also been planting things little by little because diversity is the key to soil health. This is a visit down at our pond where our beaver has been busy and active, and I was just checking to see if he had brought any more material to clog up the dam for us. It's a quiet quiet morning. We have so many incredible birds around here. We've been seeing all sorts of stuff this year. Of course, we have starlings, which most farms I think do, but we had a pair of rose-breasted grosbeaks earlier this spring, and I hope you can hear the hermit thrush. I heard one when I was hiking. There it is. It's that melodic flute-like. So as you're walking across our property, there's a trail. It's like an old, used to be like the road that they would take lumber out on. And so I'm walking along those. This is some of the old growth stand that we have, these gorgeous old grandmother oak trees, and they're awesome. I love them so much. They just have incredible energy, and you can feel it when you go and sit beside them. I feel like they're the matriarchs kind of watching over us, the sentinel trees. And so this one has this cool little root that is almost like an arm hugging you, and you can go and sit there. And sometimes I do, and it's just a nice place to kind of slow down and meditate and just be. It's one of the many springs we have coming off our mountain or hill. Now, this is our neighbor's property. This actually isn't our land right here, but his wife was having, I think, mobility issues and difficulty getting down to where I'm about to take you. And out of love, this man built this for her. And unfortunately, she passed away during COVID. But it's just such a beautiful tribute, I think, to her love of being out in nature and his love for her. And so we're their neighbors, and I walk down here sometimes in the summer. We'll go swimming down in this area. And this is the big river that's near our house, or bigger than our little stream. When I take walks like this, I'm not really trying to get anywhere necessarily. I'm just trying to pay attention to whatever's around me. There are insects or animals or creatures or things I notice, changes I notice. Let me see. I gotta get ready to pause this. Up there where that dark spot is where our stream actually dumps out into this larger river. I'm just going to pause it in a second. So you can see here this larger rock, of course, but this is way deeper than you would think. It's actually almost 8 feet right there. Like, it's way over my head if I jumped in. But what's so incredible is the way that this rock has formed and been worn down over the years. It reminds me a little bit of the potholes that are in closer to like Amherst area in Massachusetts, but this is just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So I'm going to show you some of the little pools in and around and the lay of the land. these pieces kind of slab off and earth and dirt gets stuck inside of them, and it just little by little is like opening a book. It just peels the pages apart and more rock falls into the stream or the river. It's a really beautiful place. We haven't seen trout here. I know they do stock it. Those little tiny fish, what are they called? The dace. I'm not saying it right, but we have little guys there. Of course, there are pollywogs and also newt babies. I'm not sure who's who. Sometimes Chris and I go down here in the later part of spring, and these guys will be stuck in pools that have kind of dried up a little bit. You'll see what I mean in a second. And so we're taking scoopfuls of these little I think they're small frogs or toads, and trying to save them. And it I don't know why they lay them in the places they do, except that I am aware that the water here is so cold that they're looking for a more shallow area where the sun is warming um, the water just a bit. Like straight out of the spring, they're like, nah. So I think that's why they congregate in these pools, and we find them where we do. I'm just showing you some of the areas where the springs are just popping out from all over the bank. This is interesting. It's that sludgy stuff when there's a lot of iron in the rocks that comes out. They're just wildflowers all over the place. I don't know what those are, to be honest, but I did find caddisfly larvae in there, those little boat beetles, and of course the skater bugs that are able to stay on top of the water with the tension. So what I'm doing here is actually, this rock is the parent rock that has a whole bunch of minerals in it, obviously, but it's incredible because there are these garnet that form that are stuck inside the matrix of this. And what happens is, as the rock is being broken down by, the wind, the rain, the sun, the garnet actually just gets washed down into these cracks. And I just think those are so cool. I've found ones as big as a quarter. These are pretty small, and when you hold them up to the light, they're kind of, I couldn't get it on camera, but they're kind of the color of like purple soda, these particular ones, and they're just dotted all throughout the rock. I've seen somebody sandblast the stone, and they're just stunningly beautiful. That is just so interesting, the way that it looks almost like an eye, but it wears like a wood grain almost. The way the water has worn out that little nook. There's something so relaxing about being in this place. I think water in particular, no matter where you are. Out 'cause there's a huge spider in here. Let me see if I can get her. She's so big. Right, so this is my hand. She's probably, I don't know, a couple inches long, easily, when she's all spread out. I don't know if that is like, do they shed their skin? What even is that? That might be. Do they molt? Ah, there's so much I don't know. Anyway, it's full of surprises out here. It's pretty awesome. So there are these toads that were mating. Oh,
Whoa. Whoa.
oh, good. It went back
That's
to the meat.
Hey,
We fit how many boxes in there? 4. Crazy amount. Oh, really? Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the video, but I guess the sound isn't quite right. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there are just so many creatures and critters all around this property. It's just stunning. But it's fun. I mean, this is what I did when I was a kid. I grew up being able to play outside, and I feel like our children are really missing this kind of a playground, right? A place where they can slow down, get off their screens, start to interact with their world a little bit more, see what works and what doesn't. I mean, you just learn so much about your body, about what you can do, about what you love and what you don't. I wish that there were more sort of wild places like this for our kids to play. The water coming out of the bank is freezing cold. It is just unbelievably amazing how cold it is in there. And on this day, it was like 90 degrees out, so it's refreshing. So, Chester is actually home to lots and lots of really interesting geology. I think that's a mayfly. There's so much happening here. I think of the 30 something minerals, almost all of them are found here, which is really interesting. So as you're walking around, you just see all sorts of different formations of rock. Things like garnet, I think, are occurring as a result of that. That's a caddisfly larva tube. They make these tubes and they spend part of their life in this aquatic world, which is really interesting. Found some 22. 22's in the stream, actually, or in the little spring coming out. That's a dragonfly. Dragonfly larva. He looked good and healthy. So, soon Chris and I are actually going to be going to check out some of the old mines that were here. So emery was mined here 100 years ago, as well as a bunch of other things. And I think it was used industrially mostly, so they were using it to sand things down and for various machines and whatnot. But we're excited to check that out. That'll be cool. I don't know what these things were. They looked like a crane fly, but they were smaller. And I thought it was funny how when they were mating, they get stuck together like end to end, and one's going one direction and one's going another. And there are all kinds of wetland plants, club mosses and ferns and lichen. And I saw a bunch of trillium earlier this spring. There's ostrich fern right there, which you can eat. You know, when it's fiddleheads and it's all curled up. And it's just a really, really fun place to be. Yeah, that's them. Butt to butt. I don't know which one is the male and which one is the female. We have these little millipedes or centipedes all over. We don't have the huge ones that I think in upstate New York they do, at least not as often, but that was a dragonfly larva that had hatched out. that's our swimming hole. And all these beautiful, crazy things. I might fast forward it in a second to get to the end because there's something I really am excited to show you. There are the tadpoles. There's various sizes of them. I think it actually is like toad plus frog, but I'm not, or newt, excuse me, plus frog, but I'm not totally sure. These guys are here every single year. And this, you can see the cord coming out from behind those two that looks like a string. That's actually their egg, like string, and it spirals around. It's so weird looking. It looks kind of like the old phone cords used to. And I just thought it was cool to be finding these guys in the pool while they're doing the deed. But, you know, it's spring. Everything is trying to procreate and make new life, which is exciting. And I think what's happening is that I'm going to mess this up earlier too. I'll get the hang of making these videos. It takes a little time to learn the technology for sure. Let me just click ahead here. Oh yeah, these are nut trees. We've been getting these little. I don't know if they're the filbert worms or whatnot. Oh, and this is Paco. Paco is in our chicken night, and hopefully, I don't think he bothers the chickens at all. But it's funny. It's funny that we have mice stealing from us. What do you know?
There's a mouse over here.
The girls don't care.
Oh, still hanging out. So cute. All right, listen, Paco. You can't have the food that's in here, okay?
All right. So let me switch this back here. Okay. I think now you can just see me and not the video anymore. So I was just going to look at the chat for a second, and if there are any questions that anybody has, I'm happy to answer any questions. There's so many things that I would really like to talk about in future videos, and I think what I would enjoy doing is sharing some of the processes we went through, such as what were the things we were looking for when we found this homestead or this farm, and what were some of the things that we didn't like about other properties that were comparable, you know, what helped us to make our decision. I know a lot about gardening as well, and I don't know if I want it to be as much of a how-to video because I really care about talking about so many things, but in particular, I care about just our deep heart as humans, our spirit, and what our spiritual, emotional needs are, in addition to just learning about how to do things in the world, because we're here for such a short time. And myself, I've come from a background with lots of challenges, so I haven't had a perfect, easy life. The beauty that is all around me, I'm so grateful for because it nourishes me and blesses me each and every day. But I didn't have a childhood that was easy at all, like so many of us. And I've had to work really hard to get through those wounds and to keep those wounds from creating my future for me. I've had to decide to drive my own ship or boat, so to speak, and be able to reclaim myself from that past. And it's taken a lot of work and effort. And so there are things like that that I want to discuss here on this show. I want to talk about relationships, about healthy relationships, masculine and feminine. I want to talk about that balance that keeps things spicy and healthy. I want to talk about how we take good care of our children right now. It's such a crazy time in the world, and it's really hard to be able to have a clear enough head and heart space to know how to direct them as they're going through their own challenges. I can't imagine growing up with a screen in my face all the time, and the way that, those companies that created those products have learned how to harvest our attention. It terrifies me for our children, and I want good things for them, and so I want to have discussions like that here as well. Um, and of course, the nuts and bolts of what we're doing here on the farm, additionally, um, and how that's going, and what are the challenges we face, and what are some things we've done wrong, and all of that. So if that's of interest, let me know in these comments. Oh, somebody was asking how many chickens we have. We have 25 layers right now. We actually have a few extra roosters. One I wanted because I know how to breed them to make the roosters that would be the chickens that would be dual purpose if that's what we needed. But the roosters are kind of a pain because as soon as they get into that period of time, and they're about a year old, as soon as they get there, they just start to be jerks and attack people. My rooster's attacking Chris. He doesn't really attack me unless I have a particular pair of sneakers on. He is good with the girls in terms of keeping them safe. But it wears on your nerves, especially because we have the additional 3 extra roosters that I think they were just not sexed correctly from the hatchery. So we have 3 extra, and I think we're going to probably have to let those guys move on to the next world and use it as a teachable moment to help people learn how to process chickens, because we actually do, we do meat birds and all of that, and it's the same process. And actually, roosters are really delicious, contrary to what some people think, I think. So that's the answer to our chickens. We haven't had ducks before. I guess we could. I don't know why we wouldn't, but it's the same reason that I don't think we're going to have goats for a little while. Somebody was saying that in the last video, like, Evie, why don't you guys have goats there on your property? It'd be perfect for that. And yes, it's true. It would be perfect for goats. And they would help us with the immense poison ivy that we have on certain parts of the property. But the issue with goats for us is that we don't have hard fencing yet. And so goats are just escape artists, and I can't imagine trying to keep them out of certain areas. Or if they do escape, we're just in such a remote rural area and we've got water all around. I just want to make sure that we can keep them in and that they can be safe and happy before I start trying to get those onto our land. But I do love knitting. I love fiber arts. And so it'd be incredible to be able to have some animals that had could share their wool with us, and we could process that. That isn't that incredible about life. It's like you go in one direction, you scratch in any one direction, and there are 10,000 things to learn, and you could use a lifetime to really master whatever that is. I love that about life. I think it's awesome. And it's one of the things that keeps me going, especially outside, because being out in nature, and you could live anywhere and it could be anywhere, but when you're outside and you're not surrounded by people in man-made spaces, right, you get to feel yourself in a way that's totally different than when you're interfacing with other humans, because you're not trying to wonder about what they think, or did I say the right thing, or did they, am I listening the way I need to be? Like, you just get to let down. And I think that's important for our brains. I once heard that being out in the woods for 15 minutes was equivalent to about 45 minutes of meditation. If you're actually like using your eyes to do the left, right, like really, almost, they call it owl eyes, but it's essentially being able to zoom out so you can see movement on your peripheral. So you're not like super hyper focused on any one thing. And I think being outside, whether you're just taking a walk at a park or going down to a river or stream or the ocean or the forest, or you're an avid hiker or a biker, just being outside in this world. Like, this is what our ancestors were made of. This is what they were knit from, all of us, you know? And it's only just recently that we started to be inside more than we were ever outdoors. And I don't know that it's healthy for us. And so part of why I want to make these videos is not necessarily to teach something that somebody else on the internet isn't already doing better, because I'm sure that there is somebody doing all of it better than I can. I do want to just highlight how awesome it is to just take a walk for the sake of the walk, and not to arrive anywhere with any destination, but to just let yourself wander, because something happens when you do that, and it's magical. And it helps quiet your mind. It helps settle your soul. It helps you to, I think it helps me to be a more balanced human. And if there was any one thing, if there were young people out there struggling in the world that didn't know what they want to do or how to think about things, I would say go out in the woods by yourself, or go somewhere alone without, podcasts in your ears or music, and just get quiet. Something happens in that quiet. So, I'm just looking again at the chat to see if there are any other questions. If you had ducks, they would eat the mice. Yeah, that's probably true. Our chickens will eat the mice if they can catch them. Have you thought more about installing a hydroelectric generation system on your dam? That is an amazing thing to have on the property. Yes, we have. In fact, there's an individual that's a part of the Peak Prosperity Tribe that actually submitted to us a bunch of ideas they had about that. And we are really excited to get that project going. We just got solar put in recently, and we're in the process of doing a whole bunch of other things. Probably at the top of the priority list is needing a barn, like a nice big barn. And we need a place to store hay. We need a place where we can take sick animals. Like, if we had a barn like that, and that mama cow got this, she had an abscess in her jaw somewhere in her face, and she looked like she had been stung by a bee. If we'd been able to seclude her, it would have been a much different story. But large animals like that are hard to take care of without sort of bigger shelters like that. There's a reason that people used to make humongous barns back in the day. So we've got some things to do before we get to creating hydro on our dam, but it is so good to know that it's there. And I think this summer our plan is to take out some of the boards that are damming it up right now, and start letting the water it scrapes out the inside of the pond, and all that debris will wash downstream, and it'll clear it out pretty well. It'll scour it when we have storms and stuff like that, because on one side there's actually bedrock down there. And at any rate, I think we're going to try and just keep that well maintained. And then in the future, we definitely are hoping to put some hydro up there, as well as be able to have maybe a writing cabin or two, something like that out there in that area. And how awesome would it be to have electricity down there already? Let's see. Roosters taste really good if they've been attacking you for a while. Absolutely. That is 100% true. They're more delicious if they've been attacking you. Yeah, our roosters, I love them, but they turn into jerks when they get their testosterone, their full testosterone. And I don't know how to do that thing. People back in the day, didn't they used to, like, snip? They would go in and take out a rooster's testicles, and I don't know if it made them kinder. They're called a capon, right? Like, when they grow huge and they no longer, I think they still crow, which is annoying, but I'm not going to be trying any of that stuff. Additionally, the problem is that the roosters end up growing those huge nails, basically. They're spurs that come out of the side of their feet, and those are scary. Those actually gored a couple of our hens, because the rooster was really mature and they got long, probably about 2.5 inches or so on each side, and he would just like skewer them while he was trying to mate with them. So yeah, I think I'm all set with roosters, but truly the challenge is, right, if there were no hatcheries to place an order to, where would you get your chickens from, right? Like, on some level, I think we're going to have to think about all these things sooner rather than later. And this is what Chris and I have been spending a lot of time here on our farm and at Peak Prosperity talking about these things, because we really want to have the opportunity to feed ourselves and our neighbors and to take care of the community that we're in some form, and to be able to teach other people who have lost connection with the land about, what does it mean to try and grow your own food. And we're learning too. It's not like we're experts in this stuff. I mean, we're both naturalists, but farming, we got our first cows 4 years ago. Up until that point, I had only worked on a dairy farm. Like we had no experience in large animals, and thankfully we have good friends and other people that have helped to guide us along the way. But we're looking forward to being those kind of mentors as people, I think, return to the land and realize that we're not meant to be so disconnected from our environment, and that nature's here to nourish us and nurture us. It's not this disordered thing out here that we got to hold at arm's length because it's too hot or too buggy or just not right somehow. I think there's something it has to teach each and every one of us. And I'm looking forward to spending more time out there. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you here as well. And unless there's anything else, let's see. Just gonna look on here. Somebody had asked, any morel mushrooms there? We had them a couple years ago, but it's weird how they show up in one spot here in Massachusetts, at least. They'll show up one year and then not another. I don't know why that is, because I've gone back to the place I've found them before and they're just not there. I think out in Michigan, you guys can pick like trash bags full of them in the spring. I definitely find a lot of edible mushrooms and stuff in this area. We have chicken of the woods and, all those things. Lots of other different types of edible mushrooms, but we don't have the morels, and those are delicious. Those remind me of bacon, like in a mushroom form. They're just amazing. And I don't know if they figured out how to plug those into the logs where you can grow them on their own yet, but that would be amazing. Like if you could just seed them somehow, because I think mushrooms, certain types, can be really tricky to grow and try and propagate on your own. With so many rocks, do y'all have a root cellar? What a good question. Yes, we are working on that. We actually just rented an excavator, and we're working on that amongst other projects. We haven't finished designing what we want to do, but our plan is to actually put it partly into a hill that we already have and sort of berm it up in that regard. But there are so many good plans out there for root cellars. And if there's anything in particular that anyone here has had experience with, please definitely drop that in the comments. We will be looking at that because we're looking for some good ideas about what to do. Because absolutely, I mean, it's hard if you're growing a lot of food and you don't have a place to put it. And there's only so much you can fit in freezers and fridges and stuff like that. Our potatoes kept pretty well this last year in our basement, but it also wasn't a super cold winter. I think having a root cellar will make all the difference. And I'm looking forward to that. And we will film that too, which will be fun. You guys can laugh at all the silly mistakes we make. I meant to say, somebody was asking before if Chris and I are married. We're not married yet. We're getting married in October. It's been a long time. We've been engaged for over 5 years, I think. But COVID happened and lots of other things. And it's become one of those things that we almost don't have time for in our lives. But for all intents and purposes, we might as well already be married. But we're going to have a small little ceremony in October, and that'll be sweet. I think that's all. I would love to read something to you guys because I really enjoy sharing just pieces of writing. There's a poem that I found by this woman, Sarah Teasdale is her name, and it's called There Will Come Soft Rains. And what I feel like she's talking about is sort of nature And I am curious what your thoughts are about it. It's beautiful though. She says, "There will come soft rains and the smell of the ground, and swallows calling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone." And I want to share that, not because I'm trying to be morbid about humans, but we're not the only beings here. You know, we share this planet with a whole bunch of other creatures that are just as beautiful and beloved as we are. And, you know, we have a place in the order of all these things, but we aren't necessarily the apex predator. Or if we are, then we have responsibilities we're not actually taking on that we should. And so I like to imagine that no matter what happens, it'll all be okay. Humans, you know, if we go extinct, the natural world will rebound and it'll be beautiful and it'll be fine. And that makes me feel better because there's a lot of fear out there that, you know, the powers that be and mainstream media tries to tell us about global warming and climate change. And it's just fear, 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 fear. And I think at the end of the day, what we need to realize is like, you know, there is an urgency. We have this one life and it's worth trying to live it the best way we can, because who knows if we come around again in this form. And so there's urgency in that. But I think the urgency is to just be our best selves, not to worry about how the world's going to end tomorrow. It's how am I being the best human, the most beautiful human I can be in this life? And if I'm not, what's stopping me? And what can I do about that? How can I heal? How can I support myself? And so I'm excited to go on this journey with y'all. And thank you so much for joining me today. Please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave comments in below the show, and I will be checking those just to see if there's anything we can talk about next week. Be well and take good care, and I will see you again soon. Thanks.